He is a young man by around the age of 22. His name is Todd McLean, and he is a Norfolk native. He grew up in a universe filled with superheroes and villains, always wanting to be a superhero. It's kind of like something you can aspire to. In his early teens, he's actually experimented on illegally by gangsters who were hoping to, create their own, super hitmen, for instance. He escapes with super strength, and he decides to get with a couple of friends who actually become superheroes. Well, he grows up, and the laws have changed, partly due to things like that happened to him. And now you have to have a license in order to be a superhero. You have to, register, fully register, but it's kind of a catch-22. You can't show up to City Hall and go, "Hey, I'm a superhero, give me my license." No, they arrest you because you're being a superhero without a license. So it's a little complicated. You have to know somebody. Getting the license is very difficult. So he kind of goes and tries to become an outlaw hero, a vigilante type of hero. And in his first night, he crashes what he thinks is a drug deal, and it turned out to be a police sting operation, which I've always wondered, how do these guys not know they're going to be crashing some other police department's operation? And that's exactly what happens. And it starts this investigation. This police detective named Martha Brown, she works for Norfolk's Superhuman Crimes Unit, and they're supposed to round up any supervillain that comes through Norfolk or any unlicensed vigilante. And instead, she sees potential in him. So what she does is make him a deal. And she tells him, "I can help train you to become a proper crime fighter, and you can help me with cases." So in a way, they secretly help each other. And Norfolk is kind of a transient city in real life, and in a superhero universe, that means people with certain powers kind of drift through. If they, get beaten up by Captain Danger New York, they gotta lick their wounds somewhere, so they drift through Norfolk. So he ends up fighting very different types of people. And he tends to fight sometimes supervillains who are has-beens now. They've been destroyed over and over again and kind of reduced to smaller crimes, like in issue 5 with Dr. Sci-Fi. And sometimes super terrorists who think Norfolk's a plum spot to hit. So it has a lot of deconstruction, but it's not mean-spirited in a way. There is a lot of humor. There is what I think is somewhat of a commentary on powers and legal powers and government powers. And I try not to paint the government, for instance, as just the bad guy. I don't believe in the big brother fear that some people have. So they overextend themselves with this law, but I also show that there's actually some reasons that they have the law. If people could blow up city blocks just by thinking about it, you'd want the government to do something about it. I have always loved superheroes. I mean, it started with the Super Friends and animated Spider-Man from the 60s and the live-action shows from the 70s. I grew up in the 70s, which was a pretty big boom for superhero stuff. And my dad got me a comic just randomly of Spider-Man, and that was kind of... I also fell in love with the differences between the film versions and the comic versions, and I found that to be more exciting. Oh, this is different, and I kind of embraced that. So Red Knight is kind of everything I've always loved about it. I loved Spider-Man and Batman and The Greatest American Hero, and I grew up with all those. And Red Knight actually spun out of a fan fiction I wrote as a teenager about Spider-Man, because I thought it'd be funny if he ran into this other hero that I created. And then I realized, wait, I really like this guy I created. So I threw away the Spider-Man stuff. And I kind of started developing this. And I discovered that I love world building. If your character is this, then why? You know, what kind of environment does he exist in, and what would he react to? And if your character is running around in costume, then like how do people like treat them? And Norfolk. Norfolk was kind of, you put in the book in Norfolk was kind of influenced by Marvel in the way they handled their superheroes in New York City, where they didn't make up fake cities like DC does. They thought, well, we know New York City, we work in it every day, why don't we base it here? So I kind of like followed that example, but what kind of happened by accident was I realized that Red Knight is a young hero trying to make it in a world of A-list heroes that don't even respect him. And they live in these big cities with these big epic battles every day, like in New York or Washington, D.C., or Chicago or L.A. And Norfolk, in a weird way, kind of became a character in and of itself. Like he is representing Norfolk in an odd way, where all these big cities look down on him, and in turn Norfolk, but he has a lot of spirit, and I kind of accidentally did something that I like about Batman or Spider-Man with their particular cities, where I kind of like created a relationship between the hero and its city, and I really like that. Even if he becomes in the storyline a big name in his own universe, he will still stay in Norfolk because he just loves protecting the city. Primal Paper as a brand, I guess, kind of came together almost accidentally. Really, the core idea that we've been able to put together is myself, Jeff Hewitt, Forster, Vince White, Bob France, and we kind of in a way work like in Image, except we have no money. And we're all responsible for our titles. Like I put together everything you need. I hire the artists, I put together the letterer. My fiance, Lindsay, is the letterer, and she's also a co-editor of the book. And I put together my book, Jeff puts together his book, so on and so forth. And we all work together, sort of helping each other out, and a way of, you know, one hand washing the other, and, you know, kind of help promote each other. Because if you like my book, well, hey, you may hear about Forster's book, or Vince White's book, Willpower book, or The Ends, and so on and so forth. And I just think it's a really exciting way to, you know, do comics, you know, because, you know, in this way, no one's alone. And it's just a really nice communal feeling, really.
I like drawing cars. Have you seen this page, Justin?
I have seen that. I think you posted this one, right?
Dude, can I get a shot of that? That would be awesome.
A little. I'm Justin Cristelli, and I am the writer-creator of Red Knight. It is. I've actually even like gone to the site of a couple of things. Like there's a Chinese restaurant that doesn't even exist anymore now, but there's a battle at that restaurant, and I actually drove to the restaurant and mapped it out, which was cool. It felt like it happened, and it felt like I was directing a film, but I was like, okay, they crashed through this window, and then they hit that wall, and I was like, oh my god. It's like, it felt oddly real after I did that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was weird. It was, yeah.
Money's old, so that's why I spent like $6-7 in quarters just to like get through the whole thing. Because they have built-in like impossible stages, like you have to lose those spots. Just to get the money off it. Yeah.
Media files. This is what the color version looks like.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, Forster's been coloring it. It gets released in issues, in single issues, in black and white. Okay, good.
You gotta lower as you're counting.